over 7 million different animals inhabit our planet.
You picked the Cape buffalo or the African buffalo
I know.
to cover, and I was like, okay.
What can they teach us?
I'm just in awe by how they work together as a community, and I'm like, man, if we actually observe Cape buffalo behavior in our lives and some of the altruistic stuff that they do that I'll touch on in behavior.
Many species are in crisis and need your help. Join the movement at allcreaturespod.com.
Welcome to the All Creatures Podcast. This is Chris.
And I'm Angie.
Hey, Angie. Good to see you.
Nice to see you as well.
Yeah. It's good having people fill in for you, but I do miss you. I do miss my partner in crime.
Well, these young men, I have to give them air high fives because I really appreciate them, especially with short notice, right?
Yes.
Filling in for me, but that's the community of wildlife lovers and conservation supporters that we have out there. Our friends and family helping us all out when I need somebody to cover me.
Needed it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
Jim did great.
Yeah,
he did great. Jim Winepress.
Yeah, love him. So thank you, Jim. You're a lifesaver. And
I know.
Yeah. No, it's definitely good to be back, and we definitely, in my family and my personal life, have experienced great loss, and so there was a small part of me that wanted Jim to do this next podcast for me as well.
Right.
Because, you just kind of feel blasé, icky, all that stuff. Sad, despondent, lonely, all those things.
Yeah.
So,
but you're back.
Exactly. Well, there's a reason, this podcast is a great reason to get up in the morning, a great reason to learn, a great reason to celebrate wildlife, celebrate the friends and families we've met along the way. And drum roll, you picked the Cape buffalo or the African buffalo
to
cover. And I was like, okay, if it's got hoof, horns, or antlers, like I can't let anybody else cover that for me.
Yeah. I was excited. This one's been on my radar for a while. I've been wanting to do this one.
I know. Yeah. I don't know what animal you would have said that I'd been like, nah, I don't want to do that. But you know me well enough to dangle the carrot, pardon the pun, in front of me. And I was like, yes. So got
to do your homework and you're ready.
Glad to be back. I'm glad to definitely do my homework. This research the past couple of days has been so much fun. And we get to share it with all of our listeners today. So you're going to learn a lot today about one of Africa's big five.
Big five. Yeah. One of the big five. And, we've done, I added it up. So we've done 4, right? We've done the elephants. We did the rhinos. We did the leopards.
You have a good memory.
Right. Now
I've already lost.
Now we're doing, and now we are doing the Cape buffalo. And that means we have one left, which we will get to by the end of the year. We've already been talking about that one. The lion. We will definitely have the lion here pretty soon. So the Cape buffalo. But before we get going, I just want to give again another shout out to our friend in British Columbia, Jonathan.
Hey, Jonathan.
He's
we love
he's
you
out there. He had a really great suggestion. I know. He's awesome. He was like, it's funny. He popped back on Facebook. He's like, yeah, Canada. It's like, what'd we do wrong? We're so nice up here. I told him we'll get up there. I love Canada. One of my favorite places on earth. So Jonathan had
yes, for sure.
Yeah, he had a great suggestion, and he said, "Why don't we have people submit questions to us, and then we'll pick and answer them?" And he said, it's a good suggestion is our Patreon subscribers get priority. So Patreon is, if you don't know, it's this platform for artists and podcasters to, try to get subscriptions that people can help us pay the bills. We have to pay for the bandwidth, the pod hosting, the website hosting, all this stuff. And obviously Angie and I are still unemployed, but we're looking to, to help pay the bills somewhere.
Yes. I know, exactly. I have these organizations, though, I keep finding, man, I want to drop everything and go work for them.
I know that rhino one. On Instagram.
Rhino Orphanage, here I come.
I know the Instagram. I sent you the link. It's the baby hippo playing with the baby rhinos because the hippo they found orphaned. So I was like, oh my God, I'm going there.
I know, my God, like my dream place.
Yeah. But if check us out on Patreon, again, it really helps support us, support the podcast. And also like advertising is a big thing we've been trying to push lately, but we're so poor we can't advertise too much. And that really helps get the word out and spread the conservation message. But anyways, Jonathan had a great suggestion. If you are a Patreon subscriber, you get priority on the question. I think if we have people message us on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, ask a question, Angie and I will do the research, anything conservation related, animal related, and we'll answer it on our Friday news show, because that's more of our free form where we kind of talk about all these issues, and we'll see how it goes. So anyways, that was a great suggestion.
I love it. Yes. Let's try it. I can't wait to see what our first question is.
Yeah. So Cape buffalo, even-toed ungulates, ruminants.
Horns, hooves, they've got it all.
Yes. And like Angie said, the real name should be African buffalo, but the Cape buffalo is the most recognized.
Savannah buffalo, I think it can be referred to as well. In the literature, it's mostly African buffalo, but for laymen like myself, it's Cape buffalo.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the popular term's Cape buffalo. Yeah, because there's 4 species under the African buffalo, which Cape buffalo is one of them.
Correct.
But if you call them all, we're going to be calling it Cape buffalo, so it could refer to a lot of the stuff we talk about today. Can refer to all 4 of them. Now, you want to stay tuned, because at the end of the podcast, we're going to tell you why they're called the Black Death.
That's like a heavy duty, dark. Not punk, but like death metal band, or something.
Yeah, the Black. There you go. There's a band name, the Black Death.
Yeah, that's some heavy duty stuff for sure.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they are cankerous, and they just they're tough. They're tough. They have to be to survive in Africa. So we'll answer that question towards the end, but I think we should just kind of describe the animal.
Oh, yeah.
People have a good idea if you...
Yeah, I, of course, am familiar with them because I'm a hoof and horn and antler girl. But yeah, if you haven't, you got to go to our show notes and check out a picture or just Google them, because they really are unique when it comes to their horns. Their size is one thing. They're cow-like in their body structure, and that's not surprising. Dark brown, black in color.
Yeah.
But what sets them apart is their horns and their size and their power and their strength.
You're right, Angie. They're huge, but they're not very tall, I guess you would say. Like you would think Africa, like elephants and giraffes. And so, I mean, they're tall, 64 inches at the shoulder, 5.5 feet, but they're not like just massive.
Because they're tanks. They're like stocky.
They are. Yes, because they can weigh up to a ton, almost 1,900 pounds or 870 kilograms. So they're big, and I mean they're long. Almost the longest I think is 11 feet, 300 centimeters or 3 meters. So they're yeah, you're right though. They're all muscle. It just looks like a big animal with a lot of muscle. And now the cows are a little bit smaller, right?
Yeah, the females, of course, are going to be smaller. And their horns are going to be, and in this species, both males and females have horns. And the horns are going to be a little more, are going to be smaller and a little more slender. And their horns, though, if you can picture it, they, of course, come from the top of the head like any normal antelope. But they're like flattened, almost like a toupee, if you will, and they come down flat and then they curve up and do sharp tips. So hooks, basically, really sharp hooks. Yeah. And they have the area from the base, the horns will diverge downward. And the adult buffaloes, the horns are actually fused together at the base to form basically like a bone shield across the top of their head. And it's called a boss, which is awesome. I learned that. I've been talking about Cape buffalo and when I used to give hoof stock tours at the zoo. And I never knew what that area was called, where it kind of connected to look like a bone toupee or something.
Right.
It's called the boss.
Yeah, the boss of the shield. It's intimidating. It's intimidating. So they just they're tough. I mean, hides 2 inches thick in some places. Like they're made to thrive and survive in Africa. Now I got to ask, did you see one when you were in Africa?
I did not see one.
Didn't see it. Okay, so it's on your list.
It is
okay.
on my list. Yes.
Yeah.
Hopefully next time. But yeah.
I was trying to think. Didn't you see the leopard?
No.
No, you didn't see leopard?
No. And
okay, let me ask you this.
I'm angry about it.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So what of the big 5 did you see? Did you see any animals in Africa? Besides zebra.
Chris, you're bringing up a sore spot. Yes, no, I saw tons of antelopes. I saw so many different types of antelopes. I couldn't even recognize them all without my guidebook. No, I saw lions and I saw elephants. A lot of elephants.
Okay, so 2. Mm-hmm. 2 of the 5. Mm-hmm. Okay. No rhinos though, huh?
No.
With Allison?
That's another sore spot, you see.
There's something there I did not know.
We were at a rhino relocation park where she was relocating, and there was probably about, at the time we were there was probably about 20 that had been reintroduced to Zambia, to North Luangwa Park. But yeah, we went out a couple times, a couple different days, trying to track them, and we didn't see any. It's obviously such a wide range. And she, even though she wanted to show us some, she was actually happy. She was like, that means they're like learning to stay away from people, and they're getting comfortable and exploring further out into the bush. So yeah, no, Chris, it's
sorry.
You're trying to bring me down. I got a whole podcast to get through.
No. Well, no, it's on your list, like I haven't been to the savannas of Africa yet. So I've only been to Egypt. That's the only place on Africa I've put my feet. So I'm dying to go there. And then my wife's going to Australia this week.
Lucky ducky.
So she's out and about. Yeah, she's out and about. She's going to Belgium in a couple months. So I'm in New Zealand though. I mean, come on, it's okay.
Yeah, it doesn't get much better than that.
Yeah. So Angie, we talk about these large bovids, part of the environment in Africa. So why care about buffalo conservation? Where's their niche? Are they really that important?
Well, Chris, these large herbivores, as you said, they can be up to 2,000 pounds. They eat a lot of grass on the African savanna, and they help shape the plant communities that they depend upon. And with that being said, they also influence the different variation of the quantity and quality of the forage. So in general, like any herbivore, any antelope or buffalo or whatever that's grazing on grasses or zebra in the African savanna, they can influence the soil nutrient distribution, cycling rates, both not only at a local place, but also on the larger landscape scale. So, I mean, I don't think people don't think of that. They also eat, and we can get a little more into nutrition, but the types of plants that they eat are also ones that aren't as desirable for other species of antelopes. So they help, they're like, if you think of a mower and really tall grasses, they kind of come in and they're not super picky. So they will eat down part of it to then let other species come in and do, do their work. So.
Yeah. And that's the thing, Angie. It's like, you and I talked about this with Jim on Friday. We're getting a global perspective, right? So it's amazing that we have the energy and the enthusiasm that we do, because we see what's going on around the earth. And it's like, Jim and I were laughing, like all the news wasn't that great. But I mean, the good news is there's people like an Allison out there, or a Kim Getz, or an Aaron Curry. Those, again, I can't tell these people enough how much I admire and love them for what they're doing for animals and wildlife. Jim, what Jim does, what Jesse does, what your husband does.
What we do. Hey now. Don't forget.
Yeah, I know. We're part of it. And that's why we have that enthusiasm. But when you talk about a dumb cow, right?
You
or a
watch
dumb
your mouth.
buffalo. But that's how, but that's, maybe that's the general perception. And you and I are like, you just said that. And I'm like, exactly. Yeah. If it wasn't for them, I mean, these other species depend on each other so much, right?
Well, and hopefully after listening to this podcast today, if you weren't a big fan of the cow family, you will be. I will turn you into a cow lover and make you understand that, yeah, they are definitely not dumb. Wait till we get to the behavior. Some of the stuff that they do with the herds are just incredible, and I actually am envious not envious, but I'm just in awe by how they work together as a community. And I'm like, man, if we actually observed Cape buffalo behavior in our lives and some of the altruistic stuff that they do that I'll touch on in behavior, if we lived our lives like that, we would be better people. I mean, I'm not even kidding. Like if we extended a hand as often as they do, man. So yes, you should care about them, obviously, because they're gorgeous and big and bold and powerful and strong, but they also do a lot for the landscape and they and for the soil, and therefore for a lot of the other animals and people that need to inhabit that space.
Yeah, it's amazing the ecological niche all these animals have filled.
Sure, well, they've been evolving in that niche in that exact position, vying for that particular job, to eat that particular grass or whatever it is they do for hundreds of thousands, millions of years. So they're damn good at it. That's the thing is it's like, so, and I think
well, and your other favorite topic is poop.
Yes.
Their poop's important. It's really critical for soil. Yeah. And for soil health and the microbes and all the organisms that live in the soil. So it's not only just eating the grass.
I mean, I love horse and cow, for lack of better terms, poop. It's basically like chewed up grass. It's amazing. It doesn't smell. It's totally fine.
I wouldn't say I love it, Angie. As much horse poop as I've dealt with in my life, doing all the repro stuff we did. But yeah, I get it.
Well, I mean, I definitely love it a lot more than like carnivore or omnivore poo, because that can be or pescavore, something that eats fish, their poop. Ooh-wee. Ooh, suey, as we would say in my family.
Okay. But that water in Michigan needs to get addressed. It explains a lot.
I drank a lot of Lake Michigan water, and I turned out just fine. Just fine. Yeah, right.
That's
what
you think.
But switching gears, so
just kidding. Yeah. So you're talking to cows. The bovinae family, bovids is a term we sometimes use. Huge family, and the evolution's interesting. So I went kind of down this rabbit hole a little bit, just because I obviously I've worked with cows and I've done some research with them and in repro and done a little bit of work in cows and I have a respect for them. I wouldn't say I loved cows working with them. I love
when they like lick my boots or my arms.
Yeah.
It's just the best.
I mean, I like cows. It's not like I don't like them. I just, I know where they end up. And sometimes
I know that part. Yeah. That's a little tougher to swallow. That's for sure. But not the Cape buffalo. They're wild and free. That's why it's kind of fun to talk about. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. This family's huge.
They're not taking domestication from nobody. They're like,
no. Mm-mm. So in the current bovinae family, so you have a bunch, and we're going to touch upon them. But all right, so looking at this family, I mean, obviously you have Bos taurus.
That's the domestic cow. I remember that one from from Animal Science 101.
Yeah. Well, then what's a Bos indicus?
Oh, come on, Chris, that's too ezy.
Yeah, I know, but for the listeners,
that is domesticated. Well, I guess I don't know. I don't have the short answer. It's from Asia, and it's been brought here to the United States because it has a better heat tolerance.
Heat tolerant, yeah. So Bos indicus cattle and then Bos taurus. So Bos taurus is more your European breeds. Your Bos indicus are more of your
There's the clean answer.
Asian breeds.
Yeah.
So pretty ancient.
Guys, if you've listened to the podcast long enough, to listen to like my stumbling through it, trying to figure out the answer, and then just fast forward to Chris's like concise answer.
Yeah, but you throw in funny stuff. You're the comedy early. I still love your utterly
it's so
amazing
funny
jokes.
that. I was like, okay, I'm on a roll here. Like, what rhymes with buffalo? What jokes can I make about Kate Buffalo? And then it just fell flat, so I don't have any.
Yeah. Okay.
I need like slapstick humor, like utterly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Utterly. Yeah, that was pretty good. So the gaur, and we're going to get to the gaur. They're huge. They're out of Asia again. And yaks. So they're part of this. The American bison, we're going to get to the African buffalo and a few, and then the Asian water buffalo, we're going to talk a little bit about. So just to kind of sum that up, the four major buffalo species, there are four major genus. The American buffalo, which is also referred to as bison, and they started calling them bison in 1774.
Wonderful fun fact. I should have known that. I might have known that when I used to give my hoofstock tours. But I really would like the listeners to, if they get one thing out of today's podcast besides Cape Buffalo are incredibly strong and powerful and awesome. Cool. And I don't know if they're necessarily smart, but they are socially smart. I'll put it that way. But number one, the difference between buffalo and bison. And do you know the difference, Chris?
Well, I just looking this up, and it was just bison was an American. I mean, they're their own genus, right? So I just thought, oh, that's something we called.
Exactly. Yeah. There's just basically been a misnomer over the years. Like, you know, and here in the States, we have the song called Home on the Range where they talk about the buffalo roaming in the West. Well, that's wrong. They're bison. And like you said, it's a completely different genus. So bison are found in North America and parts of Europe, where buffalo are found in Africa and parts of Asia. And so the other big difference too is, so there's, we call it the 3 H's. So the differences between buffalo and bison is the first H is home. So where they live. Like we said, bison, North America, Europe, buffalo, Africa, Asia. The other H is for hump.
Right. So
bison, the one in North America, have a big hump at their shoulders where buffaloes don't, or the hump isn't as pronounced. And the hump allows the bison's head to function as a plow a little bit more to like move away snow in the wintertime. And then, so that's the second H. And the third H is horns. Right. So buffalo horns they're large. And this is probably a good time to throw in the fun little tidbit that each horn on a full grown, probably like an adult male Cape Buffalo's head is going to be 25 pounds. Each insane. One. So
it's insane. Yeah.
Yeah. And so a total of 50 pounds. And I mean, that's like if you're familiar, like a heavy bag of dog food or horse feed or a hay bale. I mean,
on top of your head.
Or how about this? At least in the United States, like you don't want your suitcase to be more than 50 pounds because we get charged. But think of how heavy that is when you're lifting it up and you can barely lift it up. These strong guys, buffaloes, Cape Buffaloes, are walking around with this on their head. So I just love them. Oh my goodness! For bison, their horns are much shorter, much sharper.
Right. Yeah, and they look different too. Like I have a good little infograph I'll put in the show notes.
They definitely look different. And if you want to throw a B into the mix with all my H's to remember, the buffaloes the bison have beards. Right. Kind of like they're the hipster of the animals. They have these little beards.
Yeah.
Totally. They're like, oh, I'm living in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
So they're the hipsters. And whereas buffalo, the Cape Buffaloes, are beardless.
Right. Yeah. It's so cool looking at the differences of these. And so you had the American buffalo or the bison. You have the Cape Buffalo, which we'll talk about today. You have the gaur. Is the Indian bison, which I've got some cool facts coming up about them in a second, but they're huge. And then you have the water buffalo, and the water buffalo, there's domestic and wild, right?
Right, exactly. Yeah. Yep. There's tons of domestic, of course, over in Asia and India subcontinent. But and then there's the wild water buffalo as well, and then mixed in there too in the family. Mixed into the water buffalo genus of, is it Balbalus? Bubbalus, yeah. Bubalus, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, There's two little guys I want to give a shout out to. First is the Anoa, which is also known as a midget buffalo. And they are found in Indonesia in the mountainous areas of Anoa and upper and lower Anoa. And they are endangered. So they're found on the islands of Sulawesi and Bhutan in Indonesia. And they're endangered. Right. So we'll touch on them probably later in the podcast, as well as another critically endangered bovid in the water buffalo or Balbolus family is the Tamara or the Mandora dwarf buffalo. And this is a small hoofed animal, of course, in the bovine family, and it's found on the island of Mindoro in the Philippines.
Yeah.
So that's where it's like Cape buffalo is of least concern according to the IUCN, but some of these other relatives are endangered or critically endangered. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so just to sum up the four genus. So you have the genus Bos. Okay, so I maybe should have opened this way. But you have the genus Bos. So you have the Bos taurus, the Bos indicus. Those are domestic cattle. You have the Bos gorus, which is the gaur. The Bos grunions, which is the yak. And then you have the bantang. Bos javanask. I didn't even mess with that one. All right, then you have the bison.
Good for you.
Which is easy. Bison.
Bison. Oh, so, that's fantastic.
And And then the Wisent, which bison bonosus, which I think is the European bison. Then you have the buffalo, the African buffalo, the Cape buffalo, the genus Cinereus. And then you have the Bubulus, which we just talked about. So those are the four majors. Now, within African buffalo, there are four species.
Yes, Bob. There are.
Right.
I think it's three and a possible, but yes.
Yeah. I saw different. This is according to IUCN. So I saw some different out there, a bunch of subspecies and stuff, but I just stuck with the IUCN data since they're the one that classifies
they're
all these
definitely
organisms.
the most universally well recognized, well referenced, right? We always talk about in science, we want as many references as possible, and they usually always have all their sources, so you can look up the papers. So we'll go with what they say. Yeah.
So you have the Cape buffalo, which is Cinereus caffer. Then you have the forest buffalo, which is Cinereus caffer nanus. Then the West African savanna buffalo, which is SC, and then Brachyceras. And then you have the Central African savanna buffalo, which was Acanthalis. So a lot of scientific words that I wasn't prepared to say today, but there you go.
All right. Well, it is there. And so where does this Cape buffalo typically live in sub-Saharan Africa?
Right. So I think they have some habitat fragmentation too.
Oh, definitely.
South Africa, Central, if you go the Serengeti Plain, Kenya, Tanzania, a little bit into Ethiopia and Somalia, over down, and then you have Botswana, Nambia, that area, and then obviously the Kalahari Desert kind of separates them out. I would imagine, I don't know, and probably some human settlements, and then you have a bunch in South Africa in these game reserves.
Yeah, right? They definitely they're largely, their distribution is reduced and largely in reserves for sure. And they're very well diverse in their habitat. They can live anything from swamps to floodplains to grasslands to forests to mountains. So they generally prefer areas with dense cover and with reeds or thickets. But they can also be found in the open woodland. So they're very versatile, which is probably why that, and because they're awesome and tough, is one of the reasons why they've been able to be so successful.
Now, the forest buffalo is Central Africa and a little bit of West Africa. Okay. And then the West African savanna obviously is West Africa, Central West. And then the Central African savanna buffalo is just above like the DRC, those types of areas. Okay. Now looking at the differences, is the forest buffalo is the only one that looks kind of different.
It does. It's a little more brown or orangish in color. I think it's it's smaller.
Yeah, and their horn's not quite as impressive, which would make sense. I mean, trying to navigate around all those trees and stuff, they don't want this huge rack or a big set of horns.
Right, like getting stuck
Yeah.
in between two trees or something, like a cartoon animal. Yeah.
So they're cool. I mean, they're just really, really cool. Now, bovidae, Angie, some of this stuff was getting into the evolution. And like I said, I went a little bit down this rabbit hole, not too long.
Good. I'm glad you did, because I surely didn't with my time crunch.
Yeah. But I didn't know. Okay, so bovidae, I always thought, oh, cows, and buffalo. I
Me
didn't
too,
realize it
yes.
included antelope, wildebeest, impala, gazelle, sheep, goats, muskox, and then obviously our domestic cattle. So they're all bovids, which I just...
Yeah, it'd be interesting. I feel like I knew that, but I could just be wanting to be right or something. I wish it was a quiz question somebody had sent in for us.
Yeah. I didn't.
But it is weird to think of goats and sheep as part of that group.
Yeah. Because we don't refer to that in the animal science and husbandry and stuff.
No, not at all. No. We refer to them as ruminants. So they're basically all ruminants, right?
Basically, yeah. How they digest their food and stuff. So, yeah, in bovidae, there's 143 current species.
Okay,
and
wow.
then 300 known extinct species. Obviously some of those are ancient. Some of the characteristics, all male bovids have horns. Most females do too. Okay. Obviously our domestic, it's one of the things we used to deal with, like especially genetics and stuff. They've tried to breed the horns out of domestic stock, just for management reasons and stuff like that. So you may see, hornless cows and stuff. And that's because over many generations, they've been bred to not have horns. Now, within the bovids, obviously huge variation in size and pelage, coloration. The bovid evolution is surprisingly controversial. So I was like reading some of these. I know. I was like reading these scientific papers. I'm like, okay.
We could start a new reality show, right?
Yeah. Let's discuss bovid evolution.
Only like 4 people in the world would watch, but you and I would be 1 or 2 of those people.
Yeah, I know.
There's 50% of your audience.
So, but obviously with DNA, we're getting the answers, and the generalities is most came from Africa, or that's the greatest variety.
Okay.
So you think about all those sheep and antelope and all that in Africa. First appeared about 23 million years ago in Europe and Africa.
Okay.
And branched out from earlier species that, went and formed giraffes and the okapi and those. The earliest known bovid is Estragus, which looked like an antelope, it was a little bit smaller. Now, I don't know. I find this stuff fascinating because I was so wowed about the bovids. So they call them tribes?
Yes.
Or subfamilies?
Okay. Yes,
right.
Subtribes.
Yeah.
Subfamilies, yep.
Yeah. It was cool because there's 10 in the bovid family. So you have bovini, which are buffalo and cattle. Then there's so many scientific words. All right. Tragolafini, spiral horn antelope. So your kudu, your elands. That's their own
big fans
subfamily.
of those guys.
Yeah.
I saw those in Africa. Okay.
Okay. You saw a lot of these bovids, right?
Yes.
All right. Now this one, Angie, Bossilafini, the 4-horned antelope. Was not aware of that.
Keep going.
There's only one species.
Okay,
yeah. That's it. It's its own little subfamily. It's one of them.
Oh, Chris, tell me more about this 4-horned animal.
I don't want to. I don't want to. I don't know. I just saw it. I was like, okay.
Are you making it up? Are you? Did you use Google?
The Rundancini, the water-loving antelopes, the reed buck, the water buck. So did you deal water buck? Ashley actually works with water buck, I think.
I did not, but I saw a lot in Africa, so I didn't work with them.
Okay. Antelopini, the small to medium antelope. So you saw tons of these, the Thompsons or Grant's gazelles.
Yes.
Okay. Melampus, the impala. The Alsafini, wildebeest, hartebeest. Hartebeest is another one that she worked with.
They're cool.
Okay. Hippo tragini. Not hippos, but Hippo tragini. Oryx and sable antelope.
Now you're making my heart beat fast. Those are my loves.
Yeah,
those are my loves.
Yeah,
sable antelope,
cool.
That's the biggest antelope in Africa.
Yeah.
Biggest and most dangerous and most beautiful. They have heart-shaped noses.
Impressive. Yeah, very impressive.
We will cover them. I got to work with them very immensely at the zoo. Yeah. Georgia and Dixie, my 2 girls.
Yeah. And then, do you have any pictures training them right
I do. I do.
Cool.
Yeah, and
Yeah, I love those
it's pretty
pictures. Yeah.
it's pretty unheard of because they are one of the most aggressive antelopes to work with.
Yeah. Yeah. You gotta respect them.
It took me
And
years.
then the caprini.
It took me years, but they finally
Yeah,
warmed
yeah.
up to me. They had to. That's my MO. It might take you years, but you will eventually warm up to me, and you will take a carrot from my hand. Darn it!
It's only taken me about 7-8 years, you know,
Exactly.
and I've taken carrots off plates on your
Exactly.
in your kitchen. Okay, and then the caprini, the goats and sheep. So anyways, I just thought that was fascinating. The history, obviously.
How I know you're such an ungulate dork like me. That's why we get along so well.
Oh,
That's so cool.
It's just I love this evolution stuff. I mean, I keep talking about it, but it's like had millions of years to get where they are today.
I know.
So
well, that's
Cape
where
Buffalo,
getting to the different nutritional things that they specialize in and their role and who lives where and who competes with what or doesn't. It's so sad that humans are screwing a lot of that up. You know.
I know. We're going to prevent it though. We're going to fight.
Absolutely.
We're going to fight. So Cape buffalo or African buffalo came from Ugandix species about 10 million years ago. And then the Cape buffalo specifically came out about 4 to 5 million years ago. So there you go. That's the bovid family. We can always refer back to this podcast when we cover another one.
Man, yeah, sable. We got to put sable orcs.
Oh, it's a huge family. Yeah, there's a bunch in there. I mean, there's a bunch in there. I just want to do Thompson's gazelle. Like, come on, that's iconic. Africa.
It is. Yeah, that was my favorite part. Was actually all the antelopes and getting the book out, the guidebook, and trying to spot as many different ones as possible. And I found ones I didn't even know about, which was shocking and also exciting at the same time. So yeah.
Okay. So the largest bovid, Angie. Now I said I was going to talk about the gaur. The gaur is the largest living right now. It's huge. It can be 7 feet at the shoulder.
Oh wow! Okay.
And weigh over 2,000 pounds or 850 kilograms. So they're massive, right?
Yeah.
So the largest bovid that's extinct was bison latifrons from North America. It was 8 feet or 2.5 meters at the shoulder and weighed 4,400 pounds or 2,000 kilograms. So,
geez, Louise,
big
incredible.
buffalo. Yeah. So they were huge. Anyways, a little bit of the life cycle, I guess. You know, they live up to 26 years. Cows, bulls, calves, groups called a herd. Or did you find the other one?
I did. Oh, my mom brain's kicking in though right now.
Yeah. Gangs.
Yes.
Yeah. A gang of Cape buffalo. Don't ever want to run into a gang of Cape buffalo.
You don't want to do that. Mm-mm.
Not walking.
No.
If I'm in a big car or something, I'm fine. But a gang of them, because their herds can get up to like 1,000 animals. It
definitely can. It really varies. It depends on how fragmented the population is, or what time of year it is. Is it breeding season? But they definitely large numbers of them. That's for sure.
And they're diurnal. They run up to 35 miles per hour.
Yeah, I found that really striking. I'm like, geez, that's fast.
That's pretty quick. Yeah.
Don't try to outrun one. I don't think that's a good strategy.
No. And their hearing and sight are okay. Sense of smell is really great.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, they have keen sense of eyesight for spotting lions over a kilometer away. And of course, they rely, like a lot of hoof stock, on olfactory cues, both for urine from the females during breeding season or when they are breeding, and then also as a way to communicate with each other.
Right. And you said lions. I mean, lions are the only thing that really take them down besides humans. So
and I guess crocodiles sometimes.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah, that's true too. Yeah.
The Nile crocodile.
Yeah, the big crocs.
It's got to be the big bad boy. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And just a little bit more too. I know I won't go into the horns as much as I went into the antlers during our reindeer podcast, but I do just think if you really stop and think about it from a physiological point of view, the fact the horns, they do keep, they're permanent. They don't shed them. Antlers are shed. And for those of you that haven't seen a horn or held a horn up close, I recommend you go to a museum, or a lot of times zoos will have some on display in their education centers, so you can feel them and see them. And what you'll find, of course, is that it's a bone. Okay. And a horn consists basically of live bone, unlike an antler where it's more dead bone that then eventually will be shed or fall off. But it has a bony core covered by a keratin sheath. And so the keratin is also the same thing that we talk about that your fingernails are made of, right? And interestingly enough, too, the horns, of course, they can be straight, they can be curved, spirals, like we had already mentioned, smooth, rigid, sharp. But if a horn breaks off, it will not grow back. And assuming it's not broken off at the base, because that can be like where the blood supply is, that can be super dangerous. But if it's broken off a little bit higher up, it will bleed. And so we actually had a sable antelope break her horns at one point in time. She was a tough girl. And it was fine. We were able to take care of it, stop the bleeding, make sure it didn't get affected. And she lived a very full and happy life. So now in the wild, it would probably be more detrimental because then they can't use it. Yeah. They don't have the horns to protect themselves, whether they're male or female. Right. And the other thing, the other tidbit too, to help people when you're thinking about horns or antlers and deciphering them, or with rhino horns, that's actually a totally different thing. Than it's not made of bone. It's made of just it's in a different location because it's on kind of the front nasal plane, where horns and antlers are on the top of the head. But animals with tusks should not be confused with horns, of course, or antlers. Because tusks, for instance, of course, that like elephants have, or boars in the pig family, those are extensions of oversized teeth. Also made of bone.
Right. Yeah.
But in a different sense. So hopefully you learned a little bit about horns, or you might love them as much as I do. But for me, it's really, getting to know the animal, and that all horns are different and they serve a purpose and they're beautiful. And the fact that those animals have to carry that around year round for their whole life. Yeah. And the other thing too, that's really important to note with animals with horns, that's much, much different than what Chris and I used to work with like horses, and is that animals that have horns know they have them, they know how to use them, and a lot of them, not all of them, but when we talk about a flight animal, an animal that's going to flight or fight are kind of the two instincts that people and animals have. And so if you don't have a horn or an antler, a lot of times, and you're a hoof stock animal like a horse or a zebra, and you get scared or you're being challenged, you'll flight. You will leave the vicinity, you run away. Whereas if you have horns and you get scared because somebody's intruding on your pathway or whatever, instead of running, you charge. And we call it fear aggression, because that you're awesome and you have these big horns and can fight whatever off. And so the Cape buffalo is like the epitome.
Yeah, they're impressive.
I'm not scared of you. I have 50 pounds worth of sharp penetrating horns that will hook you and flick you over into the next set of bushes.
Well, before we get to behavior, because that's next, is, really quick on nutrition. It's easy. They eat grass. Angie's already talked about that. Grass, and more grass. That's their preferred food. They will eat some shrubs and other things when grass is sparse, but they prefer grass. Now, they graze mostly during the morning and evening. They rest during the heat of the day. Cattle ruminate, right? Angie and I have talked a little bit about this.
Yeah, so they spend a large proportion of their time feeding and then ruminating to extract nutrients from the food. So they'll chew it, swallow it, and then they actually regurgitate their cud or a bolus to get even more nutrients, and they chew their cud, and then they swallow it again.
I was going to tell everybody, why the heck do they chew their cud? So they will, throw up their food into their mouth.
I prefer regurgitate
it. Yeah, I know, but that's kind of what it is. And they're mixing the gastric juices with this grass.
Hey, we have, let's see, this is honesty time. Yeah. We have all been there. Yeah. Haven't you been there for 1 second where you maybe like burped a little
Oh, it's the
bit, and you're like,
worst.
but you're
Oh, it's the
forced to just
worst.
like get rid of it. So
The
yeah,
burn.
yeah, but
It's
they're
the
tough,
worst.
you know.
Well,
And
yeah.
that's what they do, and they enjoy
Yeah. They
doing it.
just,
And they'll do that. I don't know. Did you come across how many hours a day? We know with horses, we
no,
always
I
talk
didn't
about
see
16
breakdown
hours
of
a day that
time.
they're
Yeah.
grazing. I don't know if it's quite
Yeah.
that much because
Yeah.
they spend a lot of time actually ruminating. But in the
Yeah. I didn't see a time budget
with
for
the
them.
Cape
No.
buffalo, it's not particularly demanding in regard to their habitat, but they do require water daily. So they do need to be near sources of water, which will dictate some of their
Right.
movement.
Right, right. Yeah. I mean, yeah, you think about it, a lot of these herd animals are bovids, you know, in Africa, and then also the zebra and some of the other species. Yeah, their migration patterns is always looking for water, right? Water sources and forage.
Yes, and it should be noted they're not true migrants.
Yeah.
Probably because a lot of it because maybe they were, but they're in reserves now.
Yeah.
But yeah, they don't have a true migrating pattern. They will
Right.
just move for sources of food or for water.
Water, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah. Well, cool. Well, you know, before we jump into repro, let's talk a little bit about behavior.
Wow. Well, I don't know if we'll be able to only talk a little bit about behavior because they're so awesome. I
know.
Of course, this is near and dear to my heart. I've got a chance to work with a lot of bovines, both domestic and wild. And yeah, I could literally just watch them for days. I don't know. Even them laying down and chewing their cud is it's very relaxing for me.
I know I told you in New Zealand, like you're like, oh, sheep, and there are sheep in the hills, which is really cool. It's really
more
fun
sheep than
to
people,
drive
right?
around and
Just kidding.
supposedly. Well, I mean, there's only like less than 5 million in the whole country, so yeah. But there's more cows now. The cattle industry, the dairy industry is like booming here, I guess. So everywhere we go, we see cows everywhere.
What kind of cows?
You know, the boys love it. So mostly
Okay.
dairy, Jerseys. Or Holsteins, sorry, not Jerseys.
Those
Holsteins.
are the black and white ones.
So
Yep.
mainly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, yeah, plenty of cows around here. But then there are sheep all over the place too.
Cool.
So.
Well, as you already mentioned, they live in a herd. And I think by the time I get done with behavior, you're going to be like, wow, I want to live more like a Cape buffalo. But before we get there, just so you know, their herd size is highly variable. The core of the herd of Cape buffalo is often made up of related females and their offspring in an almost linear dominance hierarchy. And then they'll be surrounded by subherds of subordinate males with both high-ranking males and females and sometimes older animals. The young males know to keep their distance from the dominant bull, and it's quite obvious who he is by looking at the thickness of his horns, which will help tell his age. And those mature around 5, 6, 7, 8. And then the other types of herds that occur there'll be bachelor herds, which we've talked about in other species. And that's where young males get together and live together basically until they're able to establish their own herd of females. And that might be when they're anywhere from 7 to 12 years of age. So it's really, if you think about that, if we talk about generation intervals, that's a long time to get your own family group going in you know, for a bovine.
Right.
Obviously not necessarily maybe compared to a primate or something, but for a hoof stock animal, that seems like a long time for them to get things figured out. And regarding the males in the herd, of course, there's usually a more dominant bull, but they also have some of these subordinate younger males around as well. And it's, of course, based on rank of dominance. But often dominant bulls can actually rely on these subordinate bulls and will even sometimes tolerate their interactions with females because I don't want to anthropomorphize for them and say like, oh, these young dudes are helping me out. So I'm not, but they definitely, it's like they know that there's size and there's great strength in numbers. I think
safety in numbers. Yeah.
They're very aware of that. And that leads to the other really, really cool fact about Cape buffalo is their altruism. And you started me on this because earlier this week you sent me the very famous video that you'll link on the show notes, and it's called the battle at
Battle of Kruger.
Battle of Kruger.
Kruger National Park. Yeah, most amazing animal video I think I've ever seen.
Oh yeah, it's 8 minutes long, and at first I'm thinking I don't have 8 minutes, I'm studying here.
Not right now, yeah.
But I sat there man, I wish it was up on the big screen, and just a synopsis of the video involves.
No, don't give it away. Don't give it away. If you haven't seen it,
I won't give it away. Anyways,
go. It's amazing.
It involves very altruistic behavior, and so altruism in the animal world, it refers to behavior by an individual that increases the fitness of another individual while decreasing the fitness of the actor. So you help out even though you're putting yourself in harm's way, potentially.
Right. It's not
symbiotic. You're not getting a benefit out of it. And not only is it like neutral, like, okay, I help, it's actually you're helping out and you could be harmed doing this. And so, and then the other altruistic type, and so the best example is the video that Chris is going to put up where basically the herd acts together to help one of its individuals. There. Did I not give too much of it away? Okay.
Yeah.
So
that's good. It is a great representation.
It is. And then,
so if you have not seen it, go watch it. Go Google it. I'll link it. It is amazing.
I just got goosebumps just literally thinking about it right now. Yeah. So
yeah, it's amazing.
But in another example, though, if you don't have time to watch the 8-minute video, is that the females in the herd appear to exhibit some sort of voting behavior. Well, thank God, ladies, it is the 21st century. Hello.
Yeah.
So what they do is during resting time when they're chewing their cud, the females stand up, shuffle around, and sit back down again. And they all sit in the direction they think that they should move next. And I love this.
Great.
And I can so picture me and my girlfriends doing this. We would end up in circles. Right? We'd be like, "Oh, where are we going? The mall, the wine bar, the gym. Where are we going?" We would end up at the wine bar most likely, but
that's what I would vote for
after the gym, right? They sit in the direction they think they should move, and after an hour or more of shuffling, the females travel in the direction that they chose. So it's awesome. and then of course the classic is when they're chased by predators, the herd sticks close together to make it hard for them to pick off a predator to pick off the member, and the calves are always gathered in the middle. And it's also been documented a lot that a buffalo herd will respond to the distress of a captured member and try to rescue it. And so this calf's distress will get the attention of not only the mother, right? Of course, a mom is going to but the whole entire herd. And they will engage in, speaking of gang of Cape Buffalo, they will engage in mobbing behavior. So they know what they're doing as far as fighting off any predators. And Chris, this is why I'm like, we all need to learn to be a little bit more like Cape Buffaloes. So there's records of them, of course, injuring or killing a lion, which that makes me sad, but I understand the circle of life. But they'll also chase lions up for trees and keep them there for up to 2 hours after a lion had killed a member of their group. So the member of the group, whatever, wasn't strong enough, died. Picture this. Just for whether you're driving in your car or just stop for 1 second and picture this. Yeah. Unfortunately, a lion, not unfortunately, it just is what it is. Nature's life, nature's way. A lion takes a buffalo. The buffalo get pissed, and there's nothing they can do about it. But they chase him up a tree and make him stay for 2 hours as punishment.
It's like, don't you dare come down or we're going to kill you.
I mean, that's, and I could see a mom doing that but this is so just, I don't know. It just made me, and I'm, of course,
it's unique. It's unique.
Because I'm in a very philosophical time in my life right now with recent events. And so I'm just thinking, oh man, and I love turning to nature and seeing how they work together and do things, and not because they actually even get anything out of it sometimes, just because it's the right thing to do. Or obviously animals maybe don't think that way, but Yeah,
Yeah.
I just wish I was a researcher right now watching Cape Buffalo. that's
I know.
that's what I want to do.
I mean,
I want to see how they care for their young and how they, I guess, get back at the gang, get back at the bad guys or whatever.
at the Lions. Yeah, wait till we talk about Lions. We're like, oh, the Lions are so great.
I know. Well, no, I
I know.
I will stand firm to the ground. I know I'm a hoof horn and antler girl.
You are.
My husband's a lion guy. Maybe he'll do that podcast with you, or we'll bring him in. He obviously has worked with all sorts of big cats, and that's his jam. So it's fun in our family. We go back and forth on who should win on our favorites. Exactly.
Yeah, favorites. Well, I love the elephants.
And the other thing about their behavior that I just thought was really cute and goes to show, I don't know if cute's the right word, but just goes to show how much personality they have is that they definitely play a lot. The juveniles will do a lot of like spar playing and dominance interactions. There's very few actual fights. If there are, they're violent but rare, and quickly over. And the sparring for play, the bull may rub his opponent's face and body during the sparring session. So it's fun behavior. You should YouTube some of the behavior if you haven't seen it before. Cows in general, I know a lot about them, so I could do a whole podcast on cow or horse behavior for anybody who wants.
Yeah,
if that's what you want to request that in the email. Yeah. But yeah, so they definitely have a lot of personality, and their vocalizations are a lot of different sounds. They bellow, they grunt, they croak. They're lower pitched than domestic cattle, and they make creaking sounds. They will vocalize differently too, depending on if they're being aggressive or if they're looking for their calves, or if the calf is in distress, or if they're threatened by predators. So I just find fascination in their own, I don't know if it's a language, but definitely in the diverse audio signals that they can give to each other to help talk to each other and tell each other, hey, what's going on? This good thing is happening, or this bad thing is happening. And then it helps protect them. And I think I have a vocalization if I can find it. So here are some Cape Buffalo vocalizations.
So when I heard that, I always try to think, okay, what does that sound like? And first of all, if I hear that in the bush and I'm on my feet, I'm going to cry. You're probably dead.
You should.
Yeah. And the second was, to me, it sounded kind of like, I don't know, like an old car horn from like the 1910 or something.
Yeah. And that's just that just touches on a few of their vocalizations. They definitely have a lot of other ones. So.
Yeah. If you hear that in the bush, oh my God, I don't even know if you can run. I don't know what to do. Cry. Yeah. Stop, drop, and roll.
Basically.
I don't know what to do. Yeah. Before we get to conservation, did you want to touch upon their repro real quick?
Sure. I mean, it's for me and you, it's a lot just like the cow family in general. So the males are going to be promiscuous. Their matings and births can occur throughout the year because the females are polyestrous, or they have estrus cycles. In the estrus cycle, similar to like a horse or a cow, is going to be 21 to 23 days. Estrus itself, so when the female's actually receptive to the male, is probably going to be 24 hours or less. They do seem to have a breeding season, which is usually towards the end of the wet season. And that's probably their gestation period is 11 and a half months. So that's probably that then the calves will be born during the wet season. And in Africa, that means the green season, right? Like everything's coming,
plenty of food for mom.
Plenty of food for mom and for then the baby. And I do like the fact, a terminology that they use with Cape Buffalo is that when a female is receptive, a male will tend, TEND, he'll tend to her by following her around until she's receptive to mating.
And like, hey, babe.
Exactly. And if approached by a more dominant male, tending males will readily return to grazing and the new male takes over. So this visual is so funny for me. It's like, so they'll tend to a female, but the minute like a little bit cooler hipster guy comes in, they're like, I'm out here.
Out.
I'll go have a beer.
I'm out. Yep.
They like it, and that goes to that. I'm making fun with this, but it really does go to show like those horns and that size. If you're more dominant, okay, done, out and out.
You
win.
You win. Yeah.
So
it's like me and The Rock chasing a girl around the bar. The Rock wins.
Yeah, I mean, it's like it's not like like you wouldn't even try. You would just get like you just walk out the door, right? Yeah.
I can win her with my brain, but he definitely wins with the brawn. So,
but that's
even my football days. There's no way I can compete with him.
I mean, that's a tough number for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then other than that, they definitely the males will do, and it's probably the females a little bit too, but they'll do the Flehmen behavior. Where and we've probably talked about this in our Przewalski's horse podcast, but that's where they curl their upper lip in order to be able to really get the yummy smells, the chemical pheromones that they're looking for closer into their nasal passages.
Yeah.
And the other thing, though, I think that's really important to point out is their sexual maturity in both males and females is around 4 to 5 years, but they don't probably become dominant or high up enough to the males, probably not till 7 or later. And the females, the same thing, sometimes, well past 5. So it's not like our domestic cows that are, having babies when they're
bred at 2 or 3. Yeah.
So, and they do have, like I said, their gestation period is 11 and a half months, similar to a horse, where the domestic cow, interestingly, is 9 months. So something obviously,
it's shorter.
Evolutionary change there. And the inner birth period is 18 to 19, 2 or 3 years. It just depends on the population density. And a calf is about 40 kilograms. I'll use kilograms for you when it's born.
So, that's about almost 100
what
pounds.
I found interesting, and what I found interesting, which you might like, is that when they're born, they're not quite as like strong as other hoof stock. Like horses stand up and basically can run.
Yeah.
Cape buffalo, I don't know if it's just how they're designed. Newborn calves will remain hidden in vegetation for the first few weeks of life, and they'll be nursed occasionally by the mother, and then join the main herd. And it takes them up to like a day or two to even run.
Okay.
And the other thing that's interesting, Chris, is if you can picture this, much different than a normal cow or a horse, is they nurse from behind and not from the side. So between the mother's hind legs.
Oh, wow. Okay.
I don't know why.
Poor
I just thought
things.
that was really
get
interesting.
Pooped on. Talk about poop.
I know. But once again, I don't know. It just must be like the season or whatever that this podcast is running. But I keep focusing on, not necessarily intentionally, but I keep focusing on super moms.
Yeah.
But yeah, an African or Cape Buffalo provides extensive care for the young. A female will actually be left behind when the calf is born, while the herd moves on to forage. And the mom stays back, defending, feeding, guiding, all this, to help the baby and the calf. And they also do, there's a lot of signs and behaviors of stroking, huddling, and playing.
No, and I mean, you're talking about them not being able to stand and run. And I think a lot of that too is just how tough they are and this altruistic behavior. So they probably haven't needed to evolve as much, because there's not a lot. I mean, obviously lions, and I'm sure there's instances of leopard taking calves, and maybe, I don't even know if cheetahs could, but I'm sure there's some other predators, hyenas, another one that could maybe take a calf, but don't mess with mama.
Yeah.
So, they're so tough, and that's probably why they
also
can do that.
The mother instinct is just so, I mean, obviously I am a mom, and it's a powerful thing that you can't control, right when that baby is born. But if you've ever been around herd animals or know anything about herd animals, the herd is super important to them. So the fact that these moms let the herd go ahead of them so she can tend to this
go on,
not as, I guess, not as up and ready to run and join the herd calf is really impressive to me. And it's great dedication. And eventually, of course, the calf, after, a week or a couple of weeks of life, it can it can catch up with the herd. And
No, it's amazing. Amazing behavior. That was really cool. That was really cool. Now with conservation, least concern, but their population's decreasing. IUCN had it at, that's the International Union for the Conservation of Nature. It had their population from about 500,000 to up to 1 million.
yes,
But obviously with habitat loss is the big one. And then I read too on IUCN disease
yes,
from cattle, from domestic cattle,
sure,
and yeah, in the late 1900s wiped out, like some populations got wiped out, or almost 95% of them wiped out.
yeah, they're susceptible and or also carriers to foot and mouth disease, bovine tuberculosis, corridor disease, and brucellosis.
Yeah. Yeah. So there are some things that, especially interacting with domestics, that can be a little scary. So, I mean, even with, even though they're least concern, and you did talk about a couple of the endangered buffalo. So, it kind of leads to, there are definitely people out there fighting for these animals. And so do you want to tell us about an organization that you might
Chris,
have found?
The organization this week I want to highlight is called Global Wildlife Conservation. And they can be found at www.globalwildlife.org. And they have a really nice Facebook presence. And I can't believe that this is the first time that I'm highlighting this group because they're amazing. And once again, with the Cape buffalo being least concern, there weren't many groups doing actual conservation work towards the Cape buffalo. So I turned my attention to some of their relatives that are either endangered or critically endangered. And with that being said, the mission of the Global Wildlife Conservation is to protect endangered species, of course, and vital ecosystems. So that's the key, the ecosystems, through partnerships and science-based actions worldwide. And they work with tons of partners in America, Africa, Asia, Australia, your neck of the woods. And they believe in exploration, research, and conservation. Okay. And diving into their research, not only do they highlight and focus over 20 to 30 amazing projects. I obviously can't go into all of them. But for me, this is why I'm saying I can't believe that it's the first time I've found these guys, is they have numerous conservation projects on hoofstock. So they're working with muntjac, the Javan rhino, tapir. I know it's not hoofstock, but elephants. And then also a big project with the mysterious Asian unicorn, which we have to cover, known as the Saola, over in Vietnam. And yeah, we have to talk about that guy soon. Maybe I need to get one of these researchers on here. But yeah, so it's a huge team of scientists that are amazing. And like I said, maybe I can get one of them for an interview. The other great thing about this Global Wildlife Conservation group is that they rank very high on what's called a charity navigator. So I'm always trying to vet different groups because I don't, I want to make sure that the money, as much money as possible, is going back towards conservation. And there's different rating systems out there, and they are consistently ranked about as high as you can possibly get. And what they're doing for buffalo, early in the podcast, when we were talking about the different genuses of buffalo, the Babalus, I think is how you pronounce it, genus, includes the water buffalo, and also the Tamaraw or the Minduro dwarf buffalo. And what this guy is a small hoofed animal, of course, in the family of Bovidae, and it's endemic to the island of Mindoro or the Philippines. And it's the only endemic Philippine bovine. And it's critically endangered. So the Global Wildlife Conservation comes in and helps out the national park that is, of course, a hotspot for other animals as far as biodiversity is concerned. And they have tons of goals, and they first want to improve the governance and protect the measures of the area this national park is in, where these little dwarf buffaloes live. And then, of course, they want to establish a zoning system to help integrative hunting, management plans, and then also ensure protection for this little guy because there's not a lot known about his population except for that it's critically endangered. And then they also want to implement innovative land use practices and planning. And so that's like an agroforest system. So planting trees, and they hope that will bolster different species in the area that can help provide other food sources for some of the locals, while providing, of course, a habitat for more wildlife.
Yeah, and it's great. Again, there's people around the world, another organization out there working to fight for these animals. Now, what you can do for the listeners, not just help support organizations or support the podcast, conservation tip of the week. This is a good one, Angie. Recycle and reuse. So one we haven't really talked a lot about yet. 30% of greenhouse gas emissions, especially from the United States, are provision of goods, quote unquote. So that means the resources, the manufacturing, the transport, and final disposal of everyday or items. So if you recycle or reuse products, you actually reduce carbon footprint. So I thought, well, one of the things, I would never buy a used mattress, right? That's just one thing you don't buy. But, what about cooking utensils? When we got here, they call them, the Goodwill stores in the United States, they call them op shops here.
Yeah.
New Zealand. We went to the op shop and bought a bunch of stuff for the kitchen, or toys or clothes for the kids.
Absolutely.
Because kids go through clothes and toys like crazy. They're growing crazy. So if you can reuse products, go to some of these shops, and you actually help reduce your carbon footprint. So we should recycle and reuse.
Yeah, if they don't have to make it again, I mean, it's better than it ending up in a landfill.
Yeah, just think about toys, all the plastic. Like you get these kids' toys today, and it's just like covered in plastic. And it's so hard to break.
Yeah,
it's a nightmare. The packaging's such a nightmare. To open up, and it's this non-recyclable plastic you throw in the garbage. It's, so go recycle, reuse. It's a great way to live.
Yeah, check out your local. Yeah, next time especially something like Chris said, like a toy or something just common. See if they have it there first. It'll be worth the drive, because then you're going to find some really cool gaudy coffee mugs you didn't even know you wanted.
Yeah.
And then you buy them, and they're fun gag Christmas presents or whatever.
Yeah.
So
it's a good place to
check
go.
it out for sure. That's a great tip, Chris. I love that tip.
All right. So why are they called the Black Death, Angie? So it's because they are so dangerous. If you haven't figured it out, they can run 35 miles an hour. They're carrying 50 pounds on their head. But the Cape buffalo or African buffalo kills more hunters than any other species. So the estimates they gore,
they'll just charge them. Like they're not going to run. They're like, I don't care what you have. I'm coming after you.
Yeah. They gore over 200 people per year. Yeah. And I read that they, like you talked about their behavior, they're very smart. If they know, first of all, if there's a hunter that'll like either shot them or missed or whatever, they have good memories. And so they will go and seek revenge. They will go and hide and ambush people or the hunter.
Yeah, they'll put them up a tree for 2 hours.
Yes. So, that's like one of the big things. If people are stalking in Africa or whatever, I guess, the Cape buffalo is the most dangerous. Now, they're not the most dangerous animal in the world. This was some interesting factoids. Do you know what the most dangerous is? Besides humans and our wars.
I was going to say like a virus or something.
Mosquitoes. Number one animal.
There you go.
Yeah, the worst. Kills 725,000 people per year.
Yeah.
Dogs, 25,000 people. Freshwater snail, 10,000 people.
What?
They carry a parasite, and so people eat it, yeah. Crocs, 1,000. Now, this is crocs, not Africa. I mean, I'm sure Africa's part of it, but there's crocs in Asia too, and Australia. So I think the number one's hippopotamus.
And in Florida.
Yeah, there is freshwater crocs in Florida, right? And then the hippopotamus, I think, is the number one, which we're going to do soon. Kill 500 people a year. Elephants, 100. Lions, 100. Sharks, 10.
I know. That's
10.
They get such a bad rap.
Sharks.
We're going to do sharks
I know.
soon. Yes.
Yeah, 10. They kill 10 people a year. So, yeah, the mosquitoes are way, way, way worse. Anyways, for us, again, check us out on Patreon. Think about donating $1 a month. It would help us a lot if everybody did that. We can advertise, get our message out, educate, take our enthusiasm, and spread the message. But, thank you. We're going to entertain questions. Jonathan, you get first up. So go ahead and send us a question, on Facebook. But thank you. And we'll be back next week with the new species.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day. Listen, learn, share.
Join the movement at allcreaturespod.com.